The story: Dodge will completely control performance upgrades on its electric vehicles. One potential downside of the EV revolution is that the people who love to modify and tune their vehicles won't be able to. Electric vehicles depend on lines of code and software to instead of those finely tuned engines, and instead of needing just a part to upgrade performance. You'll need computer access and codes. Automakers hold the keys to the codes, and many are opting to hold onto them preciously. Dodge, a brand that attracts the modifying hungry fans, says it too will keep EV performance mods in-house. According to Dodge boss Tim Kuniskis, mods will only be available through its own direct connection program. Now, we don't want to lock the cars and say you can't modify them, says Kuniskis. We just want to lock them and say modify them through us so that we know that it's done right. Kuniskis adds that the brand would rather spend time coming up with modifications for customers than spending time dealing with hackers. Those performance upgrades were demonstrated at SEMA with the showing of the Charger Daytona SRT concept and the SRT Banshee EV powertrain. Dodge showed 3 power levels for each output and 2 performance upgrades done through the brand's new direct connection program. So basically, they're talking about these architectures, and what I find is so funny about it is they're talking about it with voltage. So they're saying the SRT Banshee is 800 volts. I was going to talk about that later, so I'll just finish reading the story. It says Dodge EV performance upgrade path through direct connection. Kuniskis emphasized a new word to the Dodge collective and program, crystals, which designates the performance levels for the Banshee EV powertrain. For instance, the standard powertrain with 456 horsepower can get a stage 2 crystal to bring it up to 535 horses. It also includes a crystal key for the dash, which the thought gives us some very video game level up vibes. Crystals are tuned specifically to each vehicle and tied to its VIN and ECM. Because we want to funnel this all through our control, and we want to funnel it through our direct connection and power broker program to support that body of people, to make sure that we're controlling everything that happens in these cars. The last part is important, as Kuniskis made it a point to say that Dodge wants to control of every aspect of the vehicle's upgrade. The statement may signal an end to tuning as EVs become more prevalent, but it also looks like Dodge is just taking up the same profitable reins that other automakers have taken by implementing charges for performance or feature upgrades to make a little extra profit. Dodge clearly isn't the first and likely won't be the last to take on that stance and approach. So basically, what these car companies are talking about at this point, when they're talking about going electric, is they're talking about what's called microtransactions, which we all pretty much know. In the good old days, the 1980s, thank God I was born in the 1980s. In the good old days of the 1980s, if you bought a video game, you got the entire game. In the 90s, when you bought a video game, and then a lot of the content that may have not made it to that game was sold to you on a second disc, and that was called an expansion pack. Once we got to this point of digital downloads, you buy a game, the game is usually not finished, i.e. Cyberpunk, which is a perfect example, and then they have to download the fixes, the patches, and the remainder of the game to you. If they sell you a season pass or whatever, that allows you access to the content that they had probably finished in the beginning, but they decided not to release until much, much later because they were going to basically make you pay 2 or 3 times for the same game, only they were going to do it over a longer period of time. So microtransactions is something, for the most part, a lot of us are already used to. I'm not going to talk very long about this because I already made a video. I entitled it, Why the SRT Banshee is Going to Fail. But some of the key points that I put out are, number one, the biggest problem with these electric vehicles, for me, it's not a problem, but the biggest problem with these electric vehicles is there's no ego behind them. When people are saying, oh, it's got no soul, what they're really saying is my ego is so big that this whole car scene is a dick measuring contest, and I need to be able to show off as much as possible. I can't do that with your electric appliance. People take these cars and they add on all types of shit to them. Most of the stuff doesn't even make sense. I've seen some ridiculously, horribly ugly mods. I've seen some decent mods, but I've seen mostly ridiculously horrible, ugly mods. Mostly. Things that don't even make sense. A lot of things that don't make sense. People putting large air wings and shit on these cars. I'm like, yo, this is a 4-door fucking sedan. You got an air wing on the back? You look ridiculous. You got people who are trying to up-badge these cars, trying to strip out their catalytic converters and their mufflers in order to make them louder, and despite the fact they've got a V6. So here I am driving, and I look to my left, I look to my right. I was like, what is that horrible sound? And it's a V6. And they're tuning, quote unquote tuning these V6. They sound fucking terrible. Then there's the people who, there's a different crowd out there, because there's a crowd out there who likes to put twin turbos on everything. Usually that ends with a piston being blown through a ceiling in a fix-it shop. But when that doesn't happen, all it does is you get the same car, but now you have a nice whistle to the car. And you're driving in traffic and you hear whistling and shit. Or I can't even do it right now. I don't know why. But anyway, there's no ego to these cars. There's just no ego. It's like in the good, in the days of Mercedes and BMW, they used to have numbers on just about all their cars, right? And like if you had a 300, that means that your car is not as good as the guy who's got a 350. If you got a 400, your car is not as good as the guy who's got the 450. If you got a 450, your car is not as good as the guy who's got the 550. You get my point. They started pretty much debadging these cars, and I think that's for the better. In fact, I like seeing people who, debadge their the numbers off their cars, because in the end of the day, it's like, what difference does it make? But it's like, again, why am I advertising to people that I have 4-wheel drive? Why am I advertising by badge that the car is a 350 rather than a 300 or 450 rather than a 400? That doesn't... Anyway, there's no ego. That's the main reason why these cars won't sell the way they want them to. Oh, yes, some people will line up to buy these cars. Some people. There are a lot of people right now who want an electric vehicle. There are a lot of people just like me who want an electric vehicle. Yeah, some of them will line up for these cars. Here's the problem, though. The second reason. Without the Hemi, Dodge is irrelevant. I knew the writing was on the wall for Dodge a long time ago. When I saw them cancel SRT as a brand, keep in mind, we had a full load of SRT products. We had the SRT 300. You had the SRT Crossfire. You had the Viper. They were promising you that they were bringing you the Dodge Durango. They were promising you that they were bringing the Jeep SRT, which they did. And they made it for basically two models. They had the WK1, WK2. Now with the WL, there's no more Hemi 6.4. So that means that they can't even make it if they wanted to. What they have done is they've replaced that Hemi 6.4 with what's called the Hurricane, which is an inline 6 that has turbochargers on it. And that makes 510 horsepower. But they haven't made that official because the Jeep doesn't get that engine yet. The only thing they have with that engine is the Wagoneer. But ultimately, what these people signed up for is they didn't want a twin-turbo 6. They didn't want that. What they wanted was a gas-guzzling V8. There are some people out there who are determined to waste as much fuel and waste as much money as they possibly can, just so at the end of the day, they can look back and say, yeah, I've got a Hemi, or I've got a V8. I've got a V8, and all these dudes with these Honda Accords and these Toyotas don't. I've got a V8 with all these people. Everybody else around me doesn't have that. Never mind the fact that a lot of them, they don't have the top of the line. It's just that, it's just a little bit more than the next guy. It's all wrapped up in ego. Here's the thing, though. The EPA has already basically said, yeah, that shit is kaput. Basically, they don't give a fuck about how you feel about it. Because you got to remember, driving is not a right. There's no right in the Constitution that allows for driving. Driving is a privilege. You have the right to walk. You have the right to travel by public transportation, but there is no right to drive. That's a privilege. The EPA, the NTHSB, all of them have gotten together with these auto companies, and they basically said, yeah, we're going to kill these fucking engines. These engines are done. No more V8s for you. No, like the soup Nazi. No V8 for you. That's what it came down to. They said, no, you ain't getting that. Not Only, and I had this conversation with somebody. I think the third major reason, I think a lot of people are basically forgetting. Now, the second reason, they killed the V8. The V8's dead. They're replacing where they can with the Hurricane Twin Turbo, just to reiterate. Third reason, Stellantis owns Chrysler and Dodge now. Stellantis is a Dutch company. Those Europeans don't give a shit how Americans feel about their cars. They don't care about the ego wrapped up in the cars. See, the problem with these cars is there's so much ego wrapped into these things, and these things are rapidly depreciating, highly expensive to maintain, I would say depreciating assets. So the issue is a lot of dudes. I was just on a channel. Dude was talking about how he was selling his Durango Hellcat. He wants like $77,000 for it. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You just bought the damn thing. Why are you getting rid of it? But I don't have to ask why you're getting rid of it. Gas where you are is probably over $4 a gallon for premium because that's the only gas you can put in the car. And then on top of that, you've probably had a brush with Dodge quality. If you take that thing into a service center, you've probably had negative brushes with Dodge quality. C.W. Lemoyne on YouTube, he's a big time YouTuber, fighter pilot for National Guard or whatever. And reality is he had a Dodge Durango Hellcat. He traded that shit in for an AT4 Chevy truck. And he specifically said the reason why he did it is because, the reliability on this thing was terrible. The HVAC system was giving him problems. He had a radiator coolant problem. I'm like, wait a minute, this thing is brand new. Why are you having radiator issues? Even when I look back at myself, I had issues with my, I'll say it like this, with a Jeep SRT, for example, 50,000 miles. By 50,000 miles, I didn't have too many problems. However, I had to have a water pump replaced and I had to have a thermostat replaced. By 60,000 miles, which I expected, I had to have my all-wheel drive service case repaired. The differential was fucked up and I was getting a lot of gear bumps. By 70,000 miles, I basically had to have them redo the entire HVAC system. They had to put in a new blower. They had to fix the gaskets on the engine. They had to do a new alternator. They had to put in another pump. They had to put in a new PCM module. That's why my Jeep Grand Cherokee was in their service for a fucking month and a half. So I already made the video about that. So once you get that taste of Chrysler, Mopar, whatever you want to call it, service, once you get that little taste, that's when you're ready to take your money elsewhere. That right there is when you're ready to take your money elsewhere. So the Dutch don't give a shit about how Americans feel about their cars. I'll say it just like this. Without those Hemi V8 engines, Dodge is dead. They're moving to electrification just like everybody else. Germans are doing the same thing. And they're basically saying, we're going to give you what we give you, and that's it. And if you don't like it, go drive something else. And that's basically what it's come down to. However, there are people who've gotten so used to buying certain things until they refuse to go anywhere else. So they just take it up the ass. And they just say, okay, go ahead, fuck me. Just sell me this car with this hybrid powertrain bullshit that I don't want. Just because I have to keep up appearances. I've been driving an E-Class all this time. Just sell me this new EQE and let's just call it a day. I'll just take whatever you give me at this point. BMW doing the same thing. I will say this. I do like BMW because BMW, at least they've made a pretty good product out of the i7 and the iX. I like those products. I would consider an iX. The i7, as much as I like it, it wouldn't work out for my daily driving. But the iX I actually like. That's a second possibility other than the Cadillac Lyriq I ordered. But the reality is, the Dutch don't give a fuck about America. They don't care how you feel about these cars because somebody's going to buy them, whether it's you or not. But here's the problem. When you don't buy them because you don't like microtransactions, when you can't so easily make all that fucking noise driving through somebody's neighborhood trying to fuck with people's minds and wake them up in the morning, when you can't annoy their dogs, when you can't make those sounds, tripping car alarms and shit, when you can't do all that and you realize you don't want the car no more and the sales start to suffer, because that's ultimately what's going to happen. When the sales start to suffer, what those people at Stellantis are going to do is they're going to say, oh, well, you know what? Dodge isn't selling, so we're going to just cut it, because that's how stupid their decisions are. But here's the problem. It's not really up to them. The greener liberal agenda has pushed them in this direction. They're going electric. They're going hybrid. They're going electrification. Now, what they didn't tell us was exactly what this car was going to be. They didn't say if it was going to be a full EV. They say it's going to be a battery electric vehicle, but they didn't say whether or not there's going to be a hybrid powertrain. But understand something. You buy this car has to be sold at a price that people can actually afford it, which means it's going to probably be somewhere around $50,000 to possibly about $80,000 in the similar price range of the Charger and the Challenger right now. Because you can get those things anywhere between $30,000 and like $80,000. But I think because it's an electric vehicle, it's probably going to cost somewhere around $49,000, $50,000, somewhere around that, and upwards to about $80,000. Now, here's the issue, though. Here's the issue. You could buy the fastest one of these things, and I guarantee the day you make the mistake of lining up next to a Tesla Ludicrous or a Tesla Plaid, the day you make the mistake of lining up next to one of these Lucids, like the Sapphire that just whipped the Bugatti Chiron's ass, that'll be the day that you're ready to hand them keys back and you say, I want my money back. And that's inevitable. The problem with electric cars is these electric performance cars that are already on the road are so ridiculously fast that you can't race them. But here's the rub. Dodge has never been good at making anything except the V8 in a car. And the cars themselves have had questionable reliability. But Dodge has never been good at anything else. Once they brought the Hemi out, once they brought the Hellcat out, the Demon and all that, that's when the advertisement and the general desire of people to want to turn into fuckboys driving on the road and doing these stupid takeovers and shit. Once they put those cars out, everybody wanted one. This is going to be different. Everybody ain't going to want one. Just like in the video I already made. Most of these dudes, they don't want to sit at no goddamn charging station. Most of their apartment buildings ain't got charging stations behind them. That's not what they want. They don't want to have to be sitting still for an hour or two. You see, it's funny. The same criticisms that people keep on mentioning to other people about Teslas are the same criticisms that they would end up with in one of these. They don't want that. I think they would be more comfortable getting a hybrid, but then again, a hybrid doesn't give them what they want either. These things are not going to have the same, how should I say, noise profiles. These things aren't going to be as loud. You already heard that thing. They brought it out, they revved it. You know, it was a joke. It was a fucking joke. And everybody's laughing. So the reality is, yeah, there's some people who want an electric vehicle who'll buy one. Definitely. I know they're going to sell those. I know they're going to sell some of those Jeeps. But my problem is their reliability, especially ask anybody who recently bought a Wagoneer how the reliability on those trucks is. Ask them about how the center panel on their dashboard or the panel up top with the garage door buttons. Ask them about how the reliability on their truck is, and they'll tell you. I think they'll tell you if they want to tell you the truth. A lot of people aren't too happy with the recent reliability coming out of the Stellantis-owned Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. A lot of people aren't happy with it. I have to say, I do like the way the new Ram truck does look, the electric Ram truck. But now here comes another problem. Anybody who's got a 1500 Ram, they're not going to want one of those. They're going to be like, nah, man, I'm going to stick with diesel. Nah, man, I'm going to stick with gas. It's like, I'm going to stick with gas because this is where I know I could tow and I know I won't get stuck. I know I could stick with the gas and I'm going to be able to drive down the road and I'm going to be able to just pick up some pork gravy and I'm going to drive back up the road and go home. And, I'm going to be out of here and, with the phone and going to be like eastbound and down, roll it up in truck and we going to do what they say can't be done. You got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I'm eastbound to watch old bandit run. Well, you get my point. You get my point. These dudes are not fucking trading in no goddamn Ram 1500 for no electric Ram truck. They're not doing it. People with these Ram TRXs, they're not trading these in for no goddamn electric Ram. It's not happening. It's not happening. I would say this, a Ram TRX is probably more of a collector car than even one of these damn Hellcat Red Eyes. I would say it just like that. These dudes who got these things, they ain't selling them. They're not selling those. They're going to hold them things. Those are going to be around a long time. Some dudes who have these diesel 3500s and all these big ass Ram trucks that tow like 30, 40,000 pounds, they ain't trading that shit for no goddamn electric truck. It's not happen. It's not going to happen. Dudes who tow their race car back and forth from Mopar meets to the track to Carlisle, they're not trading them shits in. It's not going to happen. So that's it. That's basically all I had to say. It looks okay. It doesn't to me look really exciting yet, but it's funny. All of the aerodynamic sacrifices that have to be made for this vehicle right here. That hood, everything about these hoods has to be completely aerodynamic because, as you know, electric vehicles don't even have grills, and they only have to cool the battery underneath. They don't have to cool an engine. So those hood scoops that make Hellcats look like they do, the Hellcat, the Demon, those hood scoops, you can't even put those on these cars because they would cause too much drag. Not to mention you don't really need them because there's no engine. So there's only electric motors hooked to a battery. Let me tell you something. You can't modify these bodies. The only thing you can possibly do is pay them more money to modify the power a little bit. Most people aren't going to want to do that. I mean, some people will probably buy it fully modded if they buy it that way. But most people, they're going to buy it and they're just going to stick with it. And the problem is they can't show it off. There's nothing to show off. Once enough people buy these cars and they all look alike, it'll be just like how you see when you see your Tesla on the street, see all those Model Ys, all those Model 3s, everybody driving the same fucking car, basically. It's just different colors. The only difference is whether or not they have performance brakes. And even then, most of those people, they're not speeding through traffic. They're driving those things so that they can conserve battery power because they don't want to have to sit at a charger. Now, me, when I get my Cadillac electric Lyriq, I'll just be parked right next to my house. And all I got to do, like even right now, I came in to my house at about, 5 o'clock, right? In the amount of time that I've been sitting here, that has been about 1 hour. That car would have been at least either 75 to 80% charged right now. But I'm going to sleep soon. By the time I wake up and shit and fuck, by 8 o'clock, it's 6:05 now. By 8 o'clock, the car will be fully charged if I had it right now. So that's just a reality. Let me tell you something. When I said that this is going to be the mark of the end of Dodge, I meant it. Just like you saw Chrysler go down the tubes. Think about how many cars Chrysler had. Chrysler had the Chrysler Pacifica, which wasn't a minivan. It was a CUV. They had the Chrysler 300. They had the Crossfire. They had the PT Cruise. They had like a portfolio of cars. What do they have now? Look what Sergio Marchionne did over there when they were bought by Fiat. What did he do? He dropped them down to 2 minivans and the Chrysler 300. They tried the Chrysler 200. That failed because it was too small. And look what they got now. They're down to 2 minivans and the Chrysler 300. Supposedly they have that airflow concept coming. But I would say the same people who are interested in the Cadillac Lyriq might be interested in an airflow if they could get one. But that's not enough to hold them up. And thus far, we have not seen enough coming out of that portfolio to say, oh, this is the future. This is a bright future. This is amazing. Nope. The only people who have that going for them right now is Lucid, Rivian, and Tesla, among others. Hyundai and Kia, I will also say, have been doing a great job of low-key dominating the electric car scene. But Stellantis, these dudes ain't got it. They just ain't got it. sounds like a vacuum. Look at that guy. Wow. 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 I can do that shit. Oh, man, oh my God. When I go to sleep tonight, I'm going to be doing speaker revs. He said speaker revs. Oh my God. Oh, Tron Legacy car. Oh my God. I can't believe this. I can't. Wow. Look at that. Look at that Hellcat kitty. Oh, Chevy gonna have fun with this. Oh my God. Oh my God. I can't believe this. Look what's sneaking up here. I think this is a Durango. Oh, no, it's not. It's just a regular Hemi Durango. It's just a regular SRT model. I thought it was a Durango Hellcat, and then I was just not excited anymore. Oh my God, get the fuck out of the way, you stupid Acura. What is this guy doing? What are you doing? All right, you know, I've had enough of this shit. Fucking idiots. Hey, look at this. It's a Rivian R1T here, but it's behind this fucking guy. There he is. Pretty cool. Look at this guy. Uh-oh, we're gonna catch him. This guy's got the plaid mode. So that means he's got that stupid steering yoke column. Oh, he's Jamaican too. The guy's Jamaican. And he's got a plaid mode. Hey man, how fast is this car, man? I just wish they'd hurry up with my fucking Cadillac. This guy's got the Rivian. He's got the Rivian R1T. Just like that guy from the other day. This might be the same guy, I don't know. Catch up real quick. thing's cool, but I think it's kind of small. It's a little ugly. It's like a Ford Ranger or a Ford Maverick inside, but it's pretty cool though. Those ugly ass lights. It's interesting though. It is interesting. I'll give it that. It's interesting. This is a nice C8 right here. Catch him too. It's green. I haven't seen that color. But I doubt that. That's not, I'm pretty sure that's not a Z08. It couldn't be. I guess he just dolled it up a little. Let's get out of here. It couldn't be a Z08. Besides, I've heard Z08s can't go 100 miles without blowing the engine, so that couldn't be a Z08. Woman. Oh shit. This is Escalade V Series. Man, this thing looks bloated. That's a big ass grill. That grill looks gigantic. This thing doesn't. Oh, it's like almost like trying to make the thing look like a car, but it's the size of like a cruise ship. It's freaking huge. Wow. Man, these things are gigantic. Look at a bumper. Well, at least they did more with that back bumper than they did with the Durango Hellcat. But this is some family cruising shit. Big ass bus. This thing's a bus. It's a school bus. This is a short bus right here. This is the magic school bus.
Stolen Hellcat Durango spotted. Cops were forced not to pursue since they couldn't catch him, but he was spotted multiple times throughout the day. And then later that day, he crashes and gets caught running 2 blocks away.
Man.
To be continued.